cool
Van
ones.
Gogh was notorious for that, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
they find
Yes.
new paintings of his underneath other ones sometimes with those
Right.
X-rays or whatever they use for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just like we were talking about that in the episode when I talked about the Lost Leonardo,
Hmm.
there was an underpainting on it.
Welcome to Creative Type Podcast. This is episode 15. How do you know when your artwork is finished? I'm Lori Rivera.
And I'm Jamie Haney.
Welcome again to Creative Type Podcast.
Hello.
Hello.
That
How's
reminds
your...
me of that Seinfeld episode. Hello. Do you remember that one?
Watch that.
With a woman's belly button. He was imagining her belly button talking to him.
Oh.
Hello. Oh my gosh. Okay. We've already got off to a bad start here. All right. We just have a quick today listener question, right?
Yes, this is from
Yeah.
Elizabeth, and she
Okay.
has sent us some other questions. So this is the same Elizabeth. She
Yeah.
just has the greatest questions, doesn't
She
she?
really does. Yes. Thanks,
And
Elizabeth, so much
yes,
for writing these in. And we're open, people. Please send us your questions for ideas. We'd love it.
yeah,
It
yeah.
doesn't even have to be a whole podcast. Just send single questions. That's fine because we can make a whole podcast out of it.
Right.
Yeah, because we go on and on and on.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's her question?
Her question is what we titled the podcast. Well, with the exception of artwork and
Right.
painting instead of artwork. Her question was, how do you know when your painting is finished?
All right.
So, my easy answer to that is when it sells.
That's awesome. I love that answer. Yep. And when it's out of your sight and you can no longer piddle around on it, right?
Right.
So we did try to keep this generic as far as keeping it titled artwork and not painting, but we are painters. So of course we're going to lean heavily on the painting, but this really does go for any kind of visual artist.
Yeah.
And maybe even, further than that, although I don't know how many like songwriters or whatever we would have or writers have listening, but you never know. I'm sure that they all have very similar problems, and not that it's a problem, but, just things that we have to consider. So, Lori, tell us, other than when it sells,
yeah.
How do you decide? Do you just abandon it? Do you just stop or what?
Yeah.
I kind of abandoned mine. I've got lots of paintings that I just kind of like lose interest, basically. Yeah. And they're just sitting there. I'm looking at one right now and it's like, I need to turn it around because it's shaming me. I mean, it's probably 3 or 4 years old and I've never finished it. And it's one of those that I like it. It's very architectural. And I don't paint very many of those. And then, it's got all the perspective and it's kind of wonky, but I kind of like that it's wonky.
Yeah.
But and since it's been several years since I started painting it, now I'm like all judgy on it. I'm like, ugh, why did I do that? Or,
right.
And I have this moon. It's got this real crisp edge. And I'm like, oh, why didn't I, edges. I didn't know about edges back then. 4 years ago, I probably was still struggling with edges. You know what I mean? Like not having, I don't want it to look like a cartoon or anything. I want it to look like a painting.
Maybe a little softer.
Yeah. Softer edges. Yes. Vanishing edges. So what?
Well, with me, it really depends on what kind of painting I'm doing. Okay, if I'm doing a still life, I pretty much know when I near the end of the painting.
Yeah.
When it looks done, and it's done.
Right.
But
and if you go any further with it, you're overworking it. Right. Especially on a still life. I can see. I can definitely see that. And you would just be piddling and adding stuff that's not helping at all. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's easy to know when I'm done on that kind of painting. But if I'm doing an abstract, okay, that's when the serious stuff that's when it gets serious, like, ooh, am I done? Sometimes it's a feeling I get, okay, my gut feeling just tells me that it's done.
Yeah.
Other times I can think I'm done and then I look at it the next day and I'm like, oh my God, that is not done. Or a week or a month. I had a painting that I just sold recently that I started on it in January and I don't think I finished it until the end of February. So it sat there for that long.
That's a long time for you. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
And I kept looking at it. I knew it wasn't done. Like a week after I finished it, I was like, no, it is not done. It just didn't look done. And so, but I let it sit there because I wasn't sure what direction I wanted to go next. But really, I usually don't plan my abstract paintings anyway. It's usually very improvisational. A lot of people use the word intuitive, which is kind of similar to improvisational, I guess. But I like using the word improvisational because of my musical influence, like improvisational jazz,
Right. That sounds very kind of hoity-toity though. But no, it sounds it sounds good though. No, it does. Know what? I'm just teasing
I like using that word too though, because we've talked about this before. The word intuitive seems to be overused. Like everybody's using the word intuitive for their art nowadays.
Right.
So it's like I want to use something different,
Yeah. It's become cliche.
Yeah, almost. Yeah. But so really with me getting back to, we kind of got off topic there a little bit, but it just depends, it's a gut feeling that I get. Sometimes I just look at it after, a week later after I think I'm done and I'm like, yeah, it's done.
Yeah.
Or, sometimes I've even had people tell me, oh, don't change anything. I love it the way it is. And then
I hate it when they say that. Yeah. Especially if you don't feel like it's done, right?
I know, right? Yeah. And they're like, oh, don't touch it.
I know.
It's like, oh no, but it's not done.
I know. And then it's easy to like second guess yourself when people start saying that. And then you're like, oh, if you paint over that and you show a picture that's older and it's already been painted over, you've tweaked it or whatever, then you're like, well, oh shit, that painting's already gone, and I know that you are notorious for painting over paintings, and you're notorious for saying, oh, I don't really like it. I think I'm going to paint over it. And you'll tell me and Vicky that, and you've already done it. Whenever we're like, no, stop.
Right. Even this one behind me, the one with the skull in it, the abstract with the skull and the rose and all that. It's like,
do not paint over that.
I keep looking at that thing and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's something I don't like about it. I don't know. I think it's the composition. It's the composition that I don't like about it.
Okay. So, well, what can you do about that?
Well, edit it, revise it, I guess.
Okay. But without having to paint over it totally.
Right. I'm not going to paint over it totally. I like the skull. Good. I love the skull.
I like it. Yeah. I think it's kind of chaotic, but I like that because it's telling a story. It's very narrative to me. I don't know what that narrative is, but it's telling a story. Because I haven't read The Bell Jar. That's what that painting's about, right?
Right.
I don't even know what. I think is it mental illness?
Yeah, she has a breakdown and she gets suicidal and
oh god,
yeah, in the state hospital. Well, I don't want to give the whole book away, but yeah, so it's pretty intense.
I think your painting is actually saying exactly probably what the character is going through. So I think, if you're not happy with the composition, of course, tweak it some, but try not to lose that loose, chaotic madness feel. And it does kind of feel that way to me. And I don't mean that in a bad way. Yeah. I mean that in a good way. I think you're really putting out in the painting what the book was. I haven't read the book, so I guess I shouldn't say that. But yeah, that's exactly the feeling that I get when I see that painting. I like it. It's very different from anything you've done.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Even though it's very loose and abstract in ways, but still very different from any of your abstracts and different from any of your still lifes.
Yeah.
So I like it.
Thank you.
So let's see. So
what about you?
Well, like I said, I've got a bunch of paintings that I just abandon. I just stop. Partly because, maybe I don't like the direction they're going in and I just kind of give up on them. I've got two right now I can see. One of them, we started at that live painting session at the pizza factory. Remember when we did that with Sandy?
That was like
Vicky?
a year and a half ago, wasn't it?
Oh gosh, I think it was 2020. I think it was in lockdown.
It was during,
it was during the pandemic.
Yeah, because I didn't go. I remember that.
Oh, that's right. You didn't go. But I did not like that painting. I had a lot of people say, oh, I can't wait to see where a painting goes. Well, it didn't go anywhere. And sometimes, but I haven't painted over it. But I'm, it's still there. It's on a good canvas, one of those nice big thick ones, So I'm not going to, I don't ever throw any of them away. But I'm going to. Someday, maybe it will inspire me to pick it up and use it as a background on something. But I don't like where it's at now. And then I said I've got that architectural painting And then the paintings behind me, if you're on the podcast, you can't see them, but I started those too, I don't know, a month ago or so. The deer, the kind of in a mystical forest. Well, I just
love
kind
those.
of, oh, well, thanks, but they're not finished. And one of them now, I absolutely hate the face of the deer. Absolutely hate it.
Oh
Before, when
no.
I was painting it, it was okay, but now I look at it, time does that. You either love
It
it or you're
does.
like, oh my God, what
Yeah.
was I thinking? Well, it's the, oh my God, what was I thinking part on this one. The other one I like, the one laying down, but the one standing up,
Yeah.
oh, his face just looks awful. And
Oh no.
I'm gonna have to do something with it because it is not at all what I envisioned. And plus I want to add some more magical touches to it. Now I'm not going to give up on that one because
Yeah.
I still am interested in it,
Oh,
and
it's a
both of
really good
those.
painting. I love it.
Oh, well, thanks.
Yeah.
I really like the colors, those blues and
Oh, I do
greens,
too.
and the white deer. They really pop and stand
Yeah.
out on there. And, it just kind of, it does, no matter what I think I'm going to paint, I always go back to this weird, mystical, magical stuff that nobody's interested in.
Oh, I know. You can't say that.
I know, but it's very niche, I guess is what the word, but
That's good though.
maybe
You
sometimes,
know?
yes, yeah, yeah. But it's not all I paint. I do paint a lot of flowers and floral stuff,
Yeah.
and that's always popular, right? And
Oh yeah.
birds are always popular.
Oh yeah.
But we talked about that before. Don't always paint what you think is popular. Paint what you want, and
Yeah.
that's what I did with that one. But it is still waiting, so I have in my mind what I want to do to those paintings. One is I just haven't taken the time to do it. I've already painted another painting since that. They've just gone off to the side. I painted that zinnia painting and I've already started another one. So I need to get back into it. I don't like leaving the work just hanging. Do you? It's kind of like a little
Oh yeah.
it's like a little reminder of, hey, it's a little nagging.
Get back in the
Yeah,
studio and
get
let's
back
finish
in
this.
there, finish me. That's right.
Yeah.
It's not, they're not failures. I wouldn't call them failures, but they're unfinished. And I don't like leaving things unfinished, even though I
Right.
have a lot of stuff unfinished, but it is nagging me.
I almost think that it's good to have one or two paintings in your studio that are unfinished, though, because that's
Really?
motivation to get back in there and finish them.
Well,
You know?
I don't know. I think it's kind of like when you have a messy house, and I'm not a very good housekeeper.
Oh, me either.
You and I are on the same page with that. You start to not see all the clutter. So it's kind of the same way with my unfinished paintings. I don't see them
Yeah.
when I'm in here. When I'm like, oh, what should I paint now? My mind does not look at that unfinished painting and say, oh, you should finish that. No, I just don't even see them anymore. Or my mind is blocking it from me. I don't know. And I just don't know on that. That's kind of, there's got to be some sort of psychological reason for that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. You're more into that psychology, right? Didn't you take psychology in college?
I've taken a few psychology classes,
Yeah.
but no, that was not my major. My major was
Okay.
marketing.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah. I took a
Business.
psychology, the one psychology class that you had to have. I took that one, but it was really interesting. I thought it was really interesting.
Oh yeah. Yeah. They are interesting.
There's probably psychological reasons for everything that we do.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
But
there's always a motivation for everything.
yeah. Right.
I think.
Whether it's good or bad.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
well, I can't think of any other reasons why I leave these paintings unfinished. And I definitely know that it's not finished because it's clearly, to me, it's clearly unfinished. But I do see some paintings that are unfinished. They look unfinished, but yet they are finished. You know what I mean? Some of the artists that have a real detailed, and then it'll be scribbled off on the edge with paint. It's just scumbled paint all along the edge, and they didn't finish the painting, but it is finished.
Yeah,
they sell
I
it
like
that
that
way.
look.
I like that look too.
I love that.
Yeah, but I can't claim that on any of these that I've created. I can't claim that one.
Hey, you know what? Something just came to my mind.
What?
When you were talking about how I paint over paintings sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes those paintings, the ones, the painting that after I paint over it, sometimes those are the best paintings I produce. And I don't know if it's because, like, like if you tone your canvas, then you're not looking at that white space and it's not as scary if there's just a solid color on there.
Yeah.
Which I tone all my canvases, whether it's an abstract or a still life, because I don't like looking at that white canvas.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. No matter what I'm painting, I always put a toning layer on there.
The white doesn't bother me.
Oh, it does me. I don't like that. I don't like.
I know it a lot. I hear a lot of people say that. Yeah. So whenever you paint over your painting, do you just add to it? Do you just continue the painting? Is that what you mean? Or do you gesso over it?
Well, I've done both. But regardless of which way I do it, usually it turns out to be a better painting than, the ones I paint over. They seem to be better paintings. And I don't know if it's because the paint is on there thicker and it just makes it look more like I don't know what it is. I haven't figured it out. Or I think it goes back to like what I was saying about the toning layer, just having something on there to go off of rather than just a blank space,
Okay. Yeah. You're so much more logical than I am, Lori. I admire that in you because I'm like, my mind goes off some side shoot and like I'm thinking already the woo-woo side of that. I'm thinking because that painting has already had a soul and now it's an older soul because you're painting more into it and onto it and it's already had a past life, even though it didn't get to live that life because you painted over it. So it's like the twins in the womb that one twin absorbs the other.
Oh, right.
This took a crazy turn, didn't it?
It
did. But it does. It's like that painting already had a soul. And you kind of said, nope. I'm gonna rewrite your life.
Yeah, that's where you and I are so much different.
Yeah, but I think that's cool though, because I love to hear your ideas because sometimes I just don't even, my mind doesn't even think that way. I'm like, oh, that makes a lot of sense because my mind is off on this loosey-goosey, la 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 mythical world that I live in a lot of times. As my husband would say, I plant flowers. You ask me, what do you do? I plant flowers. And I paint, of course, I paint. But he's making fun of me when I say that because I just get lost in my own world.
Yeah.
For sure. But I mean, you really do need to have more of you can't always be like me and not thinking logically. It makes more sense to think logically. I think there's a balance, right? You need to have a little both. Yeah, but that's really interesting. But I can see what you are saying. It's got the little lumps and bumps from the previous painting. But I really do feel, now it sounds all woo-woo, but I really do feel like, that painting has had a soul already. You may have not liked the way that had started to become, and it obviously wasn't finished, right? Because you had to continue with it, whether that was gesturing over it or just continuing on with the painting. Right. And I know that I brought this up before, but there was someone else in a few episodes in the past, whenever I said that one of the people that I was listening to on a podcast had mentioned they stopped doing so much of that. Not that they haven't stopped completely, but because they weren't making it any better. Now, in your case, you're feeling like it's making it better.
I feel
but they were just, but in her case, she was like, I was just making a different painting. It wasn't any better or worse than the first one it started out as. So that's really interesting. But if you feel like you're making it better, then that's all that matters, right? Your opinion of your own painting is really the only thing that matters.
Yeah.
Because I think each painting, and we've talked about this before, has an owner somewhere. They just haven't found it yet, right? The person that's going to, lock eyes with the painting and fall in love with it. Maybe it will take 5, 6, 7 years for them to find it. And that doesn't mean that you need to give up on the painting. And that's where you and I have also different. And you, like you said, that I'm starting to change you over to where you're not, if something doesn't sell within a year or so, you're not like tossing it or painting over it or trying to get rid of it. I'm like, be patient. That, patience is a virtue, right?
Yeah. But, and back to that painting over paintings again, usually when I do that though, I call it painting over a painting, but usually there's some of the underneath layer that peeks through. Okay. So I'll kind of like edit out things, in the composition that I don't like and add to other areas.
Yeah.
So really, it's not like I'm really painting over a painting. It's more like
So,
just the next layer of the
okay. So,
painting that's unfinished. Now, with
right.
that
You
being,
haven't finished the
yeah,
painting.
yeah. With that being
Okay.
said, though, I have been known to gesso over a painting before. If it's
I've
just,
only done
if
that
I
one
just,
time.
yeah, if
Yeah.
I just really hate everything about it, then I will do that.
Really. I have found, especially the longer I paint, if I have a painting that I do not like that much and I want to just over it, which I don't have anything because I guess that's the hoarder in me. I don't want to, I will keep it. I will keep that painting for another day. And the
Mhm.
longer I do this, the more I realize if I just have fresh eyes on it, sometimes that painting is much more better. Is that right? Much more better, much better
Yeah.
than what I initially thought when I stopped
Oh,
painting on
right.
it. So, turn it around, don't look at it.
Yeah. Rotate it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Or even turn it around and have it face the studio wall.
Right.
Just give yourself time to come back to it with fresh eyes. And you may be amazed, just like the painting behind me. And now
Hmm.
I don't like it. I've got fresh eyes on it. And the face I do not like. So I'm going to have to rework that. But I think that's a good point that you're saying that you need to just you realize that it wasn't finished and you had to go back
Hmm.
in and tweak
Right.
it.
Right.
Yeah.
Now I haven't gessoed over an entire painting for a long time.
Hmm.
Now I used to when I was learning how to do abstracts. Well, I'm still learning how to do them. I don't think we ever stop learning,
I
right?
never stop
But
learning. Yeah.
I think I've improved though,
Oh, sure. Yeah.
since
All
when
of
I
us
first
have. Yeah.
started doing them. When I first started doing abstracts, I would paint over them all the time,
Oh,
you know.
gosh.
But
How many paintings are they going to find?
I
Whatever.
know,
We're long
right?
gone, right? Maybe we'll become
No,
famous
but that,
someday. Oh,
yeah.
this is a Lori Rivera, and look what's underneath. An old one
Van
of her
Gogh.
old
Van
ones.
Gogh was notorious for that, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
they find
Yes.
new paintings of his underneath other ones sometimes with those
Right.
X-rays or whatever they use for
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And just like we were talking about that in the episode when I talked about the Lost Leonardo,
Hmm.
there was an underpainting on it. There was a
Yeah.
different paint that they had found on that. But
I
that's
think that's
interesting.
exciting.
Yeah, that is.
That's
But
really cool.
things back then the supplies were a lot harder to come by,
Oh
right?
yeah.
They were painting on
Right.
everything.
Right.
Wood, sheets. What was it? Who was the guy that painted on sheets all the time?
I don't know.
Oh, oh gosh. Modelingi? Modelingi? What was it? Do you know who I'm talking
Hmm.
about?
No, I don't.
Oh yeah,
I'll have
I
to look
saw
that up.
I saw a documentary one time. And maybe it was like one of those docudramas. Like it was a movie about them, a docudrama. And he was in with a bunch of other people and I can't remember who the other artists were. And I know I'm massacring his name. I don't know if it's modal Lingy. I don't know.
Okay.
Sorry. It just came out of the
I'll
blue.
have to
So
look
I
that up.
really, yeah,
Yeah.
you'll have to look that
Yeah.
up. But I'm thinking it was around, it might have been, what was that movement where they all went to Paris? And there was even American painters in Paris and they were all
Oh, I don't
hanging
even
out
know.
together.
I don't know.
Oh, yeah, you do. Yeah, you do.
I'm sure I do. Yeah. I
I,
just can't
I'm
think of it.
I'm just at a loss for words. I can't think of what I'm trying to say. I think
Right.
Picasso was part of that group. And when
Oh
he was
yeah.
young, and they would go and they would drink together and have coffee together and eat together. And they had just their little art group in Paris. And then they were like, oh, there was a bunch of them that were, I mean, famous artists that were together. Anyway, we kind of got off track here, but well, I think that we've covered her question pretty well. I'm sure we could just talk all day on that, right? Every artist probably
Yeah.
got a different rendition of when do they know that their artwork is finished.
Yeah. I
So,
went.
just like Leslie, she's doing that wool sculpture. How does
Oh
she know when
yeah.
that thing's finished? That
Yeah.
last one she made got huge.
Yeah, we were just talking about that last night. I talked to her last
Yeah.
night about it, and she said it's giving her some anxiety because she has no plan for those
Oh,
sculptures. And I'm
yeah.
like, oh, that's how all my abstracts are, and I find it exciting.
Oh yeah, nothing
Yeah,
better than having anxiety driven artwork. Why would you even
right.
want
But
that?
her sculptures are so cool. I love
They're very
them.
cool. Yeah, they're very
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. But oh, there was one more thing I wanted to mention about. I think I did mention it earlier, but I didn't really talk about it any. Rotating your canvas, like especially if you're doing an abstract, and you're like, if you're stuck, if you get to that point where like I don't know what to do next, or if you look at it and you're like, is it finished? Is it not finished? Just rotate it, put it on every side. And see where it looks best. Sometimes it doesn't look good the way you painted it, but if you rotate it, that'll give you a new perspective.
Right.
Yeah. So,
and actually, that works for representational work too, especially if something is not quite right and you can't figure out what it is. If you turn it upside down or look at it through a mirror or take a picture of it and look at it small, that will just, you'll be able to see the flaw immediately. Our eyes are so incredible. Even people who are not artists can point out exactly what is wrong because our eyes and brain are just so. We know what things are supposed to look like, especially the human face. Exactly when something is off, perspective is off, or that, just something is not right if it's supposed to be a representational piece. So yeah, that's good advice for any art. I wonder how the sculptors would deal with that. They can't turn that upside down, right?
Something you reminded me of something with the human face. I've heard that you're better off not better off, but I heard that it's sometimes easier to paint a face upside down.
Oh, I've seen artists do that. I didn't know. I haven't heard it, but I have seen artists do that. Speed painters, like they speed paint it upside down. I always wondered why they did that. So I guess you're seeing things as they are instead of how you think they are. Because that's a real problem if you're trying to paint representational, and if you have something in front of you, that you're looking off of for reference. A lot of times our brains think, oh, well, I know what that leaf is supposed to look like. And you don't even look at your reference, and then, you're painting it and all of a sudden, well, wait a minute, this doesn't look anything like that. Well, it's because you painted what you thought it looked like instead of what you actually see.
Right.
All right. Well, wow. We just went off all kinds of different ways, didn't we? Yeah. Well, that was a really fun conversation, though. I like that.
It was, yeah.
So we would love to get some. Yeah, thank you. We would love to get some more questions or even just title or subject ideas for the podcast. Please write in to our email address. We are creativetypepodcast@gmail.com. Easy to remember. Drop us a line. And if you'd like to get a shout out on our show notes and on the podcast itself, leave us a review and we will leave a link to where people can find you. And we would be so appreciative. Thank you for listening. And if you like this podcast, please share it. It's a way that we can get more people to listen, to help more people. Oh, and also, I don't want to forget, we've got aprons and tote bags to help cover the cost of the podcast, hosting fees, and just various little fees that we have. We'd love to have you support the show, and either with a review, stars, or financially through buying a tote bag or an apron. So, well, thanks for listening, and thanks, Lori. This has been a fun conversation.
Yes, we'll have
to do another one like this. I liked it.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for listening.
Well, thank you. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I get my computer upstairs, and halfway through the podcast, I realized I didn't have my lights on. Did you notice me turning them on?
No, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah. So I'll show you what the difference makes. Let's see. Here's the big one I got from Vicky.
Maybe I was looking down at my paper or something when you did that. I don't know.
I tried to do it real slyly. I reached over, and here's my small ring light. There's that. There. This is how it started out. And I kept thinking, why is it so dark? Oh shit, I don't have my lights on. So I went.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, we've got some work to do. Yep.